What up, everyone? Welcome to the next episode of In My Penn State at. Today's episode is going to be a little controversial. We'll be talking about carbs. I know they're the absolute devil nowadays, but scarily enough, they're actually not that bad for you when done correctly. So the main thing with carbs is that people think it causes a ton of weight, and there's some truth behind that, but not what a lot of people think. It's weird. So it's true that most junk food has a ton of carbs in it, but those are different carbs than, say, in rice. So I'm going to be talking about why it's not absolutely necessary to cut out carbs in your diet if you're trying to lose weight. Before I get started, I would just like to say, if you're on a paleo diet, if you're on a keto diet, and it's working for you, stick with it. But this is for people who don't think they could cut out carbs completely from their diet. Usually a diet like that just isn't sustainable, and that causes you lose weight for sure, but afterwards you binge and you gain all that weight back. So the most important thing in finding a diet is finding something that works for you. So if keto, paleo, Atkins, whatever, if that diet works for you and you're seeing results, stick with it. I'm not saying don't do something that's working for you. Okay, so I'm just going to go over 5 reasons why you don't need to be terrified of carbs. So, number 1, carbs aren't any different than other macros in terms of they're not fattening. Like, carbs themselves aren't fattening. What is fattening is the calories. So when you're eating tons of bread and you're eating tons of pasta and you're eating a bunch of junk food, while you're eating carbs, and that's true, you're also eating a ton of calories. Like a cookie has, say, like 200 calories in it, right? Whereas like a vegetable has 60. So the thing that's causing the weight gain is the calories, not the actual carbs. And this is proven by pretty much a lot of cultures, Asian cultures especially, eat a ton of carbs, and they're among the healthiest and leanest people on the planet. So it's not the carb itself, it's the quality of the carb. So when you're looking at rice and you're looking at oatmeal, that's called a complex carb, and that is very beneficial for your health. It's slow digesting, it doesn't cause your insulin levels and your blood sugar to spike up. It's more of a slow release, and you should be eating carbs. Next is the gluten. So gluten is kind of the buzzword now. Everyone seems to have a gluten allergy or gluten insensitivity or sensitivity, whatever. So it's kind of been proven that most people don't actually have anything that causes their body to not digest gluten correctly. It's 99 to 97% of people should have zero problems actually digesting gluten. So if you have celiac disease, or you just don't react well to gluten, react well to gluten, then by all means cut it out. Just because something's gluten-free doesn't mean it's healthy for you. There are tons of naturally gluten-free foods, but if they're highly processed, they're still not healthy for you. So don't be terrified of gluten either. I like to think of the South Park episode where what happens in that episode, but that obviously doesn't happen. Gluten isn't something to shun just because it's kind of the cool thing to do. If you have celiac disease, obviously don't eat it, but for the most part, the vast majority of the population can eat gluten perfectly fine. So one thing that's kind of universally agreed upon in nutrition science is that fiber is healthy for you. And most fiber-rich foods are carb heavy. So if you look at something like potatoes and oatmeal, they have what's called soluble fiber, and this helps slow down slow down digestion. And fiber also helps increase the time it takes to digest and absorb nutrients, and that's, you feel full longer. So if you're eating good healthy carbs, you're feeling full. You're gonna be satiated for much longer. And when you're trying to lose weight, that's obviously important, because if you feel full, then you're most likely not gonna overeat. I mean, if you binge, that's something completely different. But for the most part, if you're feeling full, you're feeling satisfied, you shouldn't be eating anymore. And fiber helps fill your stomach. So eat healthy carbs. So legumes, potatoes, oatmeal, again. Don't shy away from those. Next is, so legumes are a superfood when you look at the nutrients involved. So legumes are edible plant seeds. So you got beans, peas, chickpeas, lentils, peanuts, that sort of thing. Naturally high in carbs. So they're kind of eliminated from a ton of diets, paleo probably being the most prevalent. And when you look at legumes, they're pretty unique. They're high in protein and fiber, which is rare for most foods. When you look at something like oatmeal, it has some protein, but not a ton. And they're also high in vitamins and minerals. And calorie for calorie, one of the most nutrient-dense food. And very cheap. You can buy a ton of beans for, a couple bucks. And that makes a pretty good meal. And it's because of this ratio of being so packed, nutriently dense, that it's extremely important in developing countries. So be careful with beans and peanuts and things like that, just because it is easy to overeat. You eat ton. Eat in moderation, like anything, and it's one of the best things you can do for yourself. So legumes, important. And like I said before, a lot of the healthiest populations on the planet eat a ton of carbs. You look at, like I said, the Asian communities, they eat a ton of rice, a ton of noodles, and sweet potatoes and things like that. So it's not the carb itself that's the problem. It's the quality of the carb. Here in America, unfortunately, we get a ton of extra additives, and we get added sugars, and we just get a bunch of artificial shit in our food that causes the weight gain. So just be mindful of what you're eating. Obviously, stay away from anything processed. Anything that comes in a bag, you shouldn't eat. In plastic, rather. Stay away from processed food. Stay away from anything that's not nutrient packed, nutrient dense. So like white bread doesn't have very many natural nutrients in it. It may have all added shit, but that's not as good for you as, say, rice. And again, just be mindful. If you do cut out carbs, right, you're cutting down on your calories, your total calorie intake, and that's what's the most important thing in losing weight. So just be mindful of what you're eating. If you don't track your food, I recommend just kind of jotting down what you eat just to see where you're at. It is helpful to know how many calories you're taking in. I use MyFitnessPal a lot. There are a ton of other food tracking apps and everything that you can use. So yeah, that's why you shouldn't fear carbs. I eat carbs every day. I have rice and oatmeal. So don't fear carbs. Enjoy your life and find a sustainable diet that works for you. Alrighty, guys. So till next time, I'm Anthony. Stay strong as an ant.